All right, let's do it again. Hey, Joe, how
Hey,
you
nice to
doing?
meet you.
My
Pleasure.
pleasure. My Jimmy with the Retro Cool Nerd. Um, we're, what is the comic book that you are in charge of?
I'm co-writing Radiant Black with Kyle right now. We're wrapping up the Catalyst War event.
Give me a little more info on that.
Sure.
Sell it.
1 year ago, we had a vote. Who would be Radiant Black? The more hot-headed Marshall or the more cool-headed and rational Nathan? And the readers decided online, and we lied to them. And we've been waiting for a year to find the results of this because we've actually been telling the story in two divergent timelines
Uh-huh.
and how they have diverged by this point. And now, with our story, it's starting to come together, come to a head. We're about to have an answer for what is to come.
These two divergent timelines. Is this leading into the massive verse?
Well, this is all part of the Massiverse, and at this moment, everything's starting to get folded together. So the Supermassive 2024 event ties into this ending as well. So one of the things that we've kind of prided ourselves on is having a lot of connections, but none of them are mandatory. You're not going to be lost if you only want to read one thread of this.
Right on.
So
And then, so massive verse. Is this a branding thing? Is it different than the multiverse, or better, worse?
it's just it's our
Yeah.
multiverse. It's our storyline. It's a way that we get to tell the projects that we want to tell, especially from a vantage point of uh, millennials who are trying to tell our own stories in this type of way.
Yeah, I dig it. I dig it. Putting your name on it. And you guys own all your own properties, working with Image, right?
That's right. Yeah, Image has been really good to us, and it's gone really well.
That's pretty exciting. One last question before I let you go then. When I was a young man, I used to have to get up super early on Saturday mornings to beat my brother to get the good spot on the couch in front of the TV. But I'd have to get up earlier than that to beat my parents into the kitchen, pour myself a big bowl of sugary goodness. So tell me, what was your favorite bowl of Saturday morning cereal, and what cartoons did you like to watch?
In my house, it was solely Honey Bunches of Oats. My dad picked the cereal. You had to eat the cereal. But thankfully, early on, they let me cook my own breakfast. So my Saturday morning ritual was I'd wake up early to watch Whose Line Is It Anyway and the anime movies that they would have on Sci-Fi before Mystery Science Theater. So it was very laid out. But then I'd fry an egg, make a nice egg, ham, and cheese sandwich. I don't do cheese anymore, so it brings back some childhood memories. Thinking of the ooey gooey
Right,
on that, and then yeah, and then make a little egg sandwich. So
right,
kind of a curveball.
right,
That
right,
was my
right.
answer there.
And we're talking about Robotech movies. Is that the ones that were on Sci-Fi?
They had a very wide-ranging library, and I never caught the beginnings of them because I was watching something else, and so I never. One of the things that's fun to me is like there's almost a dreamlike quality. Every once in a while, I'll like stumble across something and say, "Oh, this is the one where it's the two guys who turn out to be Adam and Eve at the end,"
Yeah.
and it's just like it's like
Right,
a little
right, right,
chunk. I kind of like that mystery.
right. Dig it.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your San Diego Comic Con 2024. Look forward to that. We're here at San Diego Comic Con 2024. Retro Cool Nerd is talking to Melissa with the Dead Lucky. So we're all learning about this today. At least I am. Can you? Tell me all about, or anything you want to tell me about the Dead Lucky?
Absolutely. So the Dead Lucky takes place in San Francisco. And the Dead Lucky is about a veteran named Bibi who comes home after a horrific accident in which she loses most of her squad. And so she's got a truckload of PTSD. And she comes back to San Francisco and discovers that it's been privatized by a company called Moro, which is essentially if Google went really evil and decided they were just going to run a city for profit. And given that she's fought her entire life for like freedom, it's not something that she's super cool with. So rather than deal with the PTSD that she so badly needs to deal with, she decides she's going to use the power she inherited from that accident and possess a bunch of robots and try to take the city back. So it's very cyberpunky, very Blade Runnery. It's really fun. We get to play with a lot of robots and technology and mechs. It's been really fun.
Mm-hmm. Evil Google. That's not a far stretch.
I mean, I heard that
Sort
there
of
was
writes
like a whole
itself.
thing that said "Don't be evil" in Google, and now it's gone. So I don't know.
All right.
Allegedly.
And you're working with Image, right? You get
Yes.
to keep all your own properties. What's
Absolutely.
that experience been like for you?
Oh, amazing. Absolutely. Some of it comes from franchising. I worked with Power Rangers for a really long time. I still work with Power Rangers. I work with the Cellverse. I work with a lot of licensed property. The ability to own my own IP has been amazing. And to share the universe with such amazing creators like Kyle and Ryan and Brian and Joe and Jared, it's been absolutely lovely. I can't ask for a better experience. And I think it can only work because we like each other so much and because we have such a big level of trust that we all have agreed to play in the sandbox together and just are having a blast.
That's awesome. So this is all across Massiverse.
Yeah.
How is that branding? How is that different than the multiverse, or is it the
So the
same?
Massiverse is its own universe. So the Massiverse, it exists of all these different superheroes in these different cities. And the great thing about the Massiverse is that because they exist in their own cities, you can pick up a comic and read it as its own thing, or you can pick up Supermassive and see them all interact together. So it's we're not asking you to pick up, if you want to pick up all 5 books or all 4 books at the same time, absolutely you'll be rewarded for that. You'll see characters cross over. But if you just are interested in the Dead Lucky or just are interested in Rogue Sun, that's okay too. You can read those books, not feel lost. But we all exist in the same world. We all play together. We're all looking for opportunities to cross over and intersect, but not to the point where fans are going to feel lost if they don't want to read one over the other. Like, we really want people to feel like they can curate their experience and then be rewarded for that in these like super massive crossover books and with extra stuff like this feature film or the card game that's going to come out.
Can you talk about the feature film?
I can talk a little bit about it. I mean, it's definitely, no one is definitely Kyle's baby, and I'm so excited for him. This is something he's been dreaming about for since inception. I mean, he always thinks in 3D. He always thinks beyond comics and what the true experience is. And with no one, I feel like this was always an intention. You know, he created the podcast and the comic book at the same time, and I feel like this is just the next logical step. And I'm really proud of him. I'm very excited for him.
Okay, right on. One more before I let you go. When I was a young man, I used to have to get up super early on Saturday mornings to beat my brother to the couch,
Yeah.
get good spot in front of the TV. But I have to get up earlier than that to beat my parents into the kitchen to pour myself a big bowl of sugar goodness. So, Melissa, look right here. What was your favorite bowl of Saturday morning cereal, and what cartoons did you like to watch?
I would always eat Fruity Pebbles, and I would watch Thundercats.
Thundercats. Very determined answer right there. All right, thanks so much for your Welcome to San Diego Comic Con 2024. I'm Jimmy with Retro Cool Nerd, and this is Ryan Parrott in charge of
Rogue Sun.
Rogue Sun. So I'm learning everything today. I'm new to this whole Massiverse. Can you sell me on Rogue Sun?
Oh, I can try. Well, first off, love your hat.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Rogue Sun is part of the Massiverse. It is about a 17-year-old kid who his dad left when he was a little kid. He's kind of, can I swear on this?
Sure.
He's kind of an asshole. Like he's more like Flash Thompson than he is Peter Parker.
Okay.
And so he finds out his dad's passed away. When he goes to the will reading, he finds out that his dad was actually a superhero and has left him his superpowers. So in order to become a superhero, he has to learn about the guy that he hated most of his life. It's kind of a dysfunctional family story, gothic superhero. It's set in New Orleans, and a lot of fun. Like some people compare it to like Ghost Rider and Spawn and all that stuff. So it's it's fun. It's a giant knight. It's a knight on fire. So I think that if you like knights that are on fire, you might like the book.
What would can you say what his superpowers are?
I mean, he's got sort of the standards that he can fly. He's armored. He's on fire, so he's got different fire-based abilities. But the one of the, I guess I can spoil it. So the thing that I like about it the most is whenever he puts on the suit, there's actually like a ghost version of his dad standing right next to him, basically being like, you got to work harder, you got to be better, and he hates this guy. So it's sort of like, imagine if Iron Man and Jarvis, if Jarvis was his father, was Tony Stark's dad. I'm blanking on the name.
Richard Stark.
Yeah, Richard Stark. That's it. So like, imagine that. Imagine if Tony had to listen to his dad standing over him. So that's the real fun. The dynamic of it is that. Yeah.
Firestormy a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But more if you hated the person. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And how long has this character been percolating? How long have you been working on this idea?
I had it for so the idea came to me when we were working. I was working on Power Rangers for a while because I wrote like 100 issues of Power Rangers, and so you always come up with stuff. I went to a football game with Kyle, and he was like, "Hey, I'm doing Radiant Black at Image, having a great time." He's like, do you have any ideas for superhero? And I was like, "Yeah, how about a superhero about a guy who has to fly around with his dad in his ear?" And he's like, "That sounds great."
Sure.
And so that was where we came from. So it's been a while. It's been something. My dad. It's funny because my dad read the book. He's like, "Do we have a problem?" I was like, "No. This is just more about what it could be."
Right. We do, and this is how you find out.
Exactly. Yes. This is my message to you. It's my passive-aggressive attempt at working on my childhood issues.
Right. And this, you connect with all the other characters in the Massiverse and Supermassive.
Yeah.
So Massiverse, is this a branding thing? Is it what is the Massiverse? Is it similar to the multiverse?
No, it's more like, we call it the Massiverse in the sense that like it's just this idea. It's a tokusatsu sort of inspired thing. All the heroes have sort of helmets and transform and so on. So it's a version of that. But they all take place in the same universe. They all take place like Radiant Black is in Chicago. My character's in New Orleans. Inferno Girl Red isn't in her own little reality, but she's around. No one's in Pittsburgh. So the idea is like they're all in the same universe. They all sort of occupy their own cities. the pitch was, can we all write our own stories where you can read Radiant Black, you can read Rogue Sun, you can read Inferno Go Red, you can read all those books by themselves, or you can read them together. The idea was to try and make it in the same way that like DC does, Superman and Batman. Do that, but have it be because we're all friends. We can throw characters to each other and have interactions and like little conversations of it that, but nothing gets derailed. Yeah.
And there's little seeds in the other books for the other characters,
Yes.
like you mentioned.
Absolutely, yeah. We have a little bit of we don't do crossovers in the traditional sense, in the sense that like we didn't want to do that thing where like you're reading a book and then all of a sudden the big crossover event happens in the series and everybody gets derailed. So
Right.
what we do is every year we have the stories and then we do a one crossover issue called Supermassive where we have everybody come together for like 40 or 50 pages and have just like a one-off adventure, and you can read it or you cannot. It's just sort of like it's additive if you like it, but it doesn't destroy the current story arcs and stuff like that. And hopefully, if the characters are changing, every single Supermassive will be a little bit different. Characters are different. Like for instance, for Rogue Sun in Supermassive 1, that was a different character. That was the first Rogue Sun because it's a legacy superhero.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was Dylan. The third one is Dylan, but he's possessed by his another person. So it's like having fun with the story and playing with different dynamics and whatnot.
I dig it. That's pretty
cool.
So you're working with Image. You get to keep your IP, right?
That is true.
What has this whole experience been like for you working with Image?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it's the dream come true. Like it's like you don't. I do like notes. I'm someone who enjoys notes because it makes the story better. But Image is so hands off and is just so supportive, and they've really believed in this project from the beginning. They've been championing in it. I think that they were really excited about the idea. With Image starting with superheroes, they were very excited about the idea of kind of going back to some of that and trying to reinvigorate sort of that 90s. That's what I grew up on. I bought every single Image book when it came out.
Right,
I was and so the idea that I could actually have my own superhero at Image is crazy. So I'm still kind of pitching myself.
That's awesome. Yeah. So one more before I let you go. There's not. I was going to say there's not. It doesn't get much bigger than Image. So
No.
That's
pretty much
pretty top tier.
Top of the mountain, yeah.
Right. So one more before I let you go. I used to have to get up super early on Saturday mornings to beat my brother to the couch, get a good spot in front of the TV. But I would have to get up earlier than that to beat my parents into the kitchen, pour myself a big bowl of sugary goodness to get me through the morning. So Ryan, look right here. What was your favorite bowl of Saturday morning cereal, and what cartoons did you like to watch?
Oh, Honey Smacks was the best. That's my favorite. Like, there's so much sugar. If I had that now, I'd run around. I'd be doing zoomies.
Right.
And my favorite show ever, I think, X-Men. The X-Men series was great. I remember that. I think the thing that I loved most was the Batman animated series at like 4:30 after school, though.
Yeah.
I remember I was playing with my friends one time and I missed an episode because I wasn't paying attention. It was the werewolf one. I was so pissed. It's the only one I ever missed.
Those two definitely changed the landscape of
Oh my gosh, yes.
cartoons. Hey, welcome to San Diego Comic-Con 2024. Jimmy with Retro Cool Nerd. We're talking to Brian, the writer of No One.
Correct.
I'm learning about this all today, so tell me all about No One.
Sure. No One is sort of a, I like to call it the Wire meets like Batman or Daredevil. So it's a very big swing at a superhero story that's sort of unconventional because you're not experiencing the story through the hero. You don't know who No One is. You don't ever get a privileged point of view. So you experience what's going on in Pittsburgh. The whole story takes place in Pittsburgh. It revolves around the vigilante No One and a serial killer who is killing corrupt people in Pittsburgh. And so you experience all that through the cops, through the newspaper people, through all the people whose lives are affected by what's going on, and you don't know who No One is. And so the feature in the book transforms into the podcast where we have an in-world true crime podcast where two characters from the book are doing a podcast called Who is No One. And so you read the comic book and then you listen to the episode. And so that sort of is the first two legs of our journey. And now that we've finished the 10 issues and the 10 episodes, we're moving into developing the film.
All right, what can you tell us about the film? When is it? We're going to see a trailer today, right?
Yeah, well, the trailer is sort of announcing the film, so we're not in production yet.
Okay.
But we're saying next year. We want to finish this thing and get it out to everybody next year.
And this is part of the Massiverse. How does No One fit into the Massiverse, or can you expand on the Massiverse?
Sure. Well, I mean, the Massiverse is its own superhero universe that Kyle Higgins started with Radiant Black, and there's several other characters in different cities in this universe. And so No One occupies the Pittsburgh corner of that universe. He has not crossed into other characters as of yet, but at some point he will.
So this might be a spoiler, or I don't certainly not trying to ruin it, but is no one of the characters that we're familiar with, or has it?
You mean the person? He's not one of the characters in one of the other universes, so that's
But
it.
is he
Uh,
is he one of the characters in the comic book that's going
yeah,
to be
yeah.
released?
We didn't do a bait and switch.
Right.
So if you read the 10 issues, you could figure out potentially or not who no one is.
Hopefully not. You can write more
Yeah,
comics, right?
yeah, for sure.
And you're working with Image. You get to keep this IP all to yourself, right? What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, this is actually my fourth book with Image, so it's. I mean, look, they're the premier creator-owned comic book label. You get the Image eye on your book, and it means something. So anytime you get the opportunity to do one, just feel fortunate.
Yeah, yeah, right on. Doesn't get much better than Image, right? Not much. All right, so before I let you go, Brian, I got one more question for you.
Sure.
When I was a young man, I used to have to get up early in the morning, beat my brother to the couch, get a good spot in front of the TV on Saturday. But I'd have to get up earlier than that to beat my parents into the kitchen so I could secretly pour myself a big bowl of sugary goodness. So, Brian, right here, what was your favorite bowl of Saturday morning cereal, and what cartoons did you like to watch?
Frankenberry or Blueberry. I was a big fan of those.
Yeah.
And I watched all the cartoons. Looney Tunes all the way through getting older, watching the Dungeons and Dragons, the original X-Men series. We watched it all.
Classics,
Yeah.
classic, and that you get that nice big cup of red or blue milk at the end of those
Yeah,
blueberry.
pretty good.
Yeah,